It is Wednesday, the 24th of July. Welcome to the Fat Doctor podcast. I don't know why I started that off almost like it was a radio show. Don't ask me. But it is Wednesday, the 24th of July. It's actually Tuesday, the 23rd. But by the time you listen, it's Wednesday, the 24th. Verylastminute.com again. You know, usually I'm a few weeks ahead of myself. I think podcasters aren't supposed to admit that they're, falling behind. But you know me. I never listen to what people say I'm supposed to do. So there you are. It is Wednesday and the doors to take your power back have been open now for 2 days. Oh, keep banging that glass. For 2 days. Take your power back. What's it all about? I'm going to talk to you about it today. And I'm going to moan about doctors. A lot. Be prepared. Somebody told me the other day that I moan about doctors too much. I was like, okay. How much is too much? Like, define too much for me. It's not like I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, I have been a doctor for 20 years and I have worked with many, many doctors. So when I'm like moaning, I'm not just like moaning at, like, I have experience of doctors, both ends. I've also been a patient many times and I have had children in and out of hospitals for many years. So, like I see them a lot. But how much is too much moaning? Why do we have to feel sorry for doctors? Like, oh, poor doctors. It's like, poor men. No. Anyway, I'm going to moan about them. If you don't want to hear me moaning about doctors, don't listen to this episode. All right? Just wait for the next one. Or actually, do you know what? If you don't want to hear me moaning about doctors, perhaps you've got the Rod podcast. Perhaps you're in the wrong place. Perhaps you need to rethink whether I'm the person to listen to, because I am going to be moaning about doctors whenever I want. And there won't be any kind of like content warning for doctors. No. Why is that? And let me tell you why. Because I bet you there's a lot of people listening right now. And I know for a fact there are a lot of people out there, especially fat people, who are avoiding their doctor. Actively avoiding their doctor. I need to see him, but I'm not gonna. And it might be like you just dismissed it. Like, oh, yeah, I've got a niggle in my knee, or like I've had that funny abdominal symptom for the last 2 months, but it's probably nothing and I'm just going to ignore it. So it could be subconsciously avoiding, or it could be actively, consciously. Like, I know I need to make an appointment for my diabetic review, but I'm just going to put it off. That I don't know who that could possibly be referring to. I've just, FYI, I have now made the appointment. Woohoo! Go me! Only 3 months late. And so, yeah, we're avoiding our doctors right now, right? And if you're one of those people, don't worry, you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. It doesn't matter if you're really worried. There are studies that show that even people who are afraid that it could be something as serious as cancer will still avoid their doctor. Crazy stuff. But why wouldn't you? Like, the reason I avoid my doctor is because every time I go and see them, they'll find a way to blame my symptoms on my weight. So what's the point? If I'm going to go see my doctor and I know they're going to blame my weight, what's the point in seeing them? I have several issues that I know need addressing, but I know also that they will bring up my weight. So why? Like, if I'm not going to get the treatment I want or I need, if I'm not going to even get investigations, what's the point? My concerns are almost always brushed aside, right? Like, all right, I'm going to be just a little bit real. Menorrhagia, heavy periods. Oh, is it? Have you tried this? Nobody cares. Period pain, nobody cares. Perimenopause, nobody cares. PCOS, nobody cares. What else? I'm on a roll now. Notice it all revolves around periods. But yeah, this is just some examples. I'm not saying I have all of these things, by the way. That would be unfortunate. But some of you do. And your concerns are brushed aside. Like, it's not a big deal. Oh, calm down. One of my clients said, I don't want to be thought of as the hysterical woman. And then we talked about the idea of hysterical and where that comes from. We all understand, or hopefully we do, if not, Google it. But, there is a real sense that, fatigue is a classic one. Fatigue, especially if it's chronic, generalized pains. Like, if it's a specific, like, one part of my knee, maybe a doctor will be interested. But if it's like lots of joints, especially with normal blood tests, oh, forget it. Who cares? Concerns brushed aside. Not important. And also, sometimes I'll go to see my doctor about something that has nothing to do with my weight, right? Just something random. And they will bring up my weight just off the cuff. I'm minding my business. And so it's like this, it's like a kind of guillotine waiting to drop or something. Like I'm literally putting my hand in there and like hoping that it's not going to get chopped off, or my head. That's why. Why am I putting myself at risk? Because I don't want to have the unsolicited weight loss advice talk. I don't want to have that conversation because it's going to impact my mental and emotional well-being, even though I am absolutely prepared for the conversation. And even though I know all this shit, not only do I know all the shit, I write courses about it, right? Like I do know. It still hits me. It still triggers something. It's a soft place to land for my doctors, and they don't care if they land there. They get their grubby paws in there and then move on with their lives. They don't even think twice. Me, on the other hand, I'm left reeling for days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. And then there are things that I simply cannot do. Like, for example, top surgery, out of the question if you have a BMI of over 40. It's just not done. I know loads of people, fertility treatment, certain medications, like just the amount of times we're just told, no, your BMI, no. For no good reason. And we know BMI is not a good measure of health, and we know all of these things. Doesn't matter. That's reality. So yeah, I'm avoiding my doctor. So are you. Don't blame you. Why would we go? Now, what if it was possible to make that appointment, to pick up the phone, to make that appointment, to go into that appointment knowing that you're going to be listened to, your concerns are going to be heard, you're not going to be brushed off, your symptoms aren't going to be blamed on your weight, you're not going to get unsolicited weight loss advice. What would that feel like? Can you imagine if that was possible? I don't think anyone should have to fight for decent healthcare. Like I don't think that should be something you have to do. Anyone should have to do. To fight for decent healthcare, like it should just be given to us. If you live in a country where it's free at the point of service, like in the UK, like everyone's entitled to free healthcare, so healthcare should be good. Like they didn't say just because it's free, you should just accept what you get. Like it could be shit, but you're not paying for it, so it's fine. No. That's not how it works. But if you live in a country where you do pay for your healthcare, whether you have insurance or don't have insurance, whatever situation is wherever you live, like it's still incredible, isn't it? How even though it's not free, your doctors still give you the impression that you're lucky to get what you get. Like it's your lucky day that I have deigned to spend time with, to listen to you, to touch your body, especially to touch your body, and to give you even my even my time. It's your lucky day, actually, is what the doctors think. It's your lucky day. You'll get what you're given. You don't like it? Oh, well, you don't like my tone of voice? You don't like what I've said? So that's what's that got to do with me? I don't care if you don't like the tone of my voice. It's me. It's my way or the highway. It's me or nothing. I'm in control here. I have all the power. What are you going to do? Seriously, what are you going to do? You're going to complain? See how far that gets you. That is the doctor mentality, right? Disgusting. But it's true. This power imbalance has existed for a very long time. I don't think it was always there, and I don't think it's like that in especially in like indigenous cultures where healers were absolutely revered, but were still part of the community, and you know, it was their community. They felt responsible. So a healer would feel responsible for that community. I don't think doctors feel that sense of responsibility anymore. Once upon a time, a doctor might have especially like a family practitioner, would have like a group of patients and they felt very responsible. They were their patients, but that doesn't exist anymore. And so there is no sense of responsibility. I don't have to care about you to be your doctor, which is such a shame. Because wouldn't you assume that caring about someone would be like step one? Step one, care about your patients. Step two, walk through the door. You have to, it seems ridiculous to me. It makes me so sad that you know, we live in a world where doctors don't care for patients. They don't feel responsible for their patients. They don't care about their, like, am I upsetting you? So it's all about me, is what the doctor's saying. It's all about me. It's my comfort. Your discomfort is irrelevant. It's about my comfort. And that power imbalance is just, I'm not saying it's getting worse, but it's horrendous. I think it's been like this for a really long time. I don't think it can continue. I don't think it's right. And I think more and more people are beginning to realise, you're not that special, dude. And you don't get to have that power over me. But I don't blame you if you're starting to feel like, you know what, it's just, I have accepted the fact that I will never get decent healthcare. I don't blame you if that's where you've gotten to. There are parts of my life where I feel that way. Like, there was a conversation about a certain author whose name I will not mention. She just wrote a bunch of books that I'm heavily attached to. I'm going to mention it because Harry Potter was like I loved Harry Potter books. I really did. I don't anymore. I don't like them because they're fat phobic. I didn't realise at the time when I was reading them how fat phobic they were. Once that was pointed out to me, I was like, fuck, can't read them anymore. And that's why I stopped reading them. But it's not actually because of that hideous woman and her turfiness. But of course I hate that hideous woman. I hate all TERFs. And I spent a lot of time hating TERFs. I spent a lot of time fighting TERFs. And then it just kind of came a point where I was like, fuck it. It's too hard. I'm never going to be able to change their minds. And so I got to do what I got to do just to keep myself safe. And so I won't get into a conversation about this author now. I won't have the conversation. If other people want to have the conversation, that's fine. I support them 100%. But I disengage from that conversation because I'm just like, what's the point? What's the fucking point? And I think people are disengaging from the medical profession for that reason. Like, if you're fat, you may well just be thinking, it doesn't exist. I'm never going to get good healthcare, so I'll take my chances at home. I'm never going to get that endometriosis surgery. I'm never going to get that gallbladder removed. I'm never going to get my knee fixed. I'm just going to suffer. I'm just going to suffer in pain. Because what choice do I have? Like, there's no option for me. They're already telling me they're not going to remove my gallbladder. So just live with the gallstones or lose weight. I don't see your other option. I believe that's called blackmail, but apparently that's okay in the medical profession. Doctors aren't allowed to do that, by the way. They're not allowed to discriminate. Just they get away with it because we don't push back. And when I say we, I don't mean individuals. I mean we as a society are not pushing back against this level of discrimination. And when BMI rules for surgery first came out, it was in the UK, wasn't that long ago. I think it was 2017. There were some surgeons who said that's discrimination. You can't do that. Rightly so. And they were ignored. And now it's just become normal. At no point in time is anyone turning around saying, like, by refusing to operate on me and giving the only option is for me to lose weight, that is actually blackmail, which is against good medical practice. Because we don't push back as a society. The only people who can push back are the individuals. And that is really hard. Pushing back as an individual is much harder than, you know, a group of experts turning around going, oh, do you know what? Turns out that's not ethical and we can't do that anymore, especially knowing that BMI is such a useless measure of health. You know, we can't do that. Like I said, I've made that appointment for my my diabetic review. And in order to do that, I had to do a bunch of blood tests beforehand and blood pressure check and all that jazz. And the obligatory stand on the scales. No thanks. Fuck off. They don't ask me anymore because they know who I am. But yeah, so my HbA1c is my biggest thing. Like, I was really afraid to find out what it was because I know how people make me feel when they see my result. It's really weird because I've been that doctor. I've been the diabetic doctor who has been like, yeah, it's a bit high. It's a bit high. Head tilt to one side. It's a bit high. It's a bit high. I was quite the patronising doctor. I wasn't mean. I was patronising, which is I think is worse. But, you know, what have you been up to? Anything changed? And if someone said, oh, I have been really stressed, I'd be like, well, that's probably not going to have caused it, which now that I've done the research is exactly what caused it. But then I'd be like, no, what about biscuits? Have you been eating biscuits? Have you been eating cake? Biscuits, by the way, cookies, sorry, for my American friends, for my North American friends. Have you been eating biscuits? Have you been eating cookies? Have you been eating cake? Have you been eating lots of sugar? Sugary drinks? Have you been having sugary drinks? Have you been putting sugar in your tea? Or coffee? Sorry, again. Sorry, American friends. Yeah, that's what they do. I mean, as if a spoonful of sugar in your coffee is going to make a difference. It's not. Certainly not when your cortisol levels are heavily activated. We've talked about cortisol a lot in the last couple of episodes, so we all know how that impacts your blood sugar. But no, it was the kind of even the patronising. So I wasn't mean, right? There are some doctors who are really mean, who are fat shamey, who are aggressive, who make jokes, all sorts of things. I wasn't that person, but I was still horrendous. I was still very shamey, and I made my patients feel like A, they had control over what was happening in their body, which they didn't, and B, that they should be ashamed of themselves because they didn't have quote unquote good control. Like, who wants to subject themselves to that? And so you're like terrified of what your A1C is going to be. So then you just don't go. You just don't get your blood measured, which is problematic because mine is still very high. I was put on a medication a few months ago and the medication did not work. And I keep feeling like it's my fault the medication didn't work. Why is it my fault that a medication didn't work? Isn't that the medication's fault? Or maybe it's nobody's fault. Maybe no one's to blame. But it's not me. I didn't do anything wrong. I took the tablet as I was told to do. I put up with the side effects, which were horrible. And yet my A1C is still high. Why do I have to be afraid of the kind of horrendous response? Why can't I just go into my appointment knowing that my nurse is going to be nice and kind and just be like, oh, well, that didn't work, did it? Let's try something else. That's all I need is someone to be like, well, that didn't work. Let's just put you on something else. I know what I want to go on because I have the absolute privilege of knowing these things, but just I don't want the attitude. So I put it off and I finally made the appointment. I'll let you know how it goes. Can I stress at this moment in time, I take a moment to point out that illness is never your fault. It's never your fault. There's this idea that there are certain things that we can do, certain behaviours we can engage in. And I'm going to use smoking as an example, not because I'm against people smoking, but I'm just going to use it as an example. We know that if people smoke, it increases their risk of cardiovascular disease, it increases their risk of lung disease like emphysema, it increases their risk of lung cancer. We cannot deny that is true. We know that stopping smoking radically reduces the risk of heart disease, cancer and emphysema. So we know this. We have studies to prove it. And so people will often, like, if you're a smoker and you end up with emphysema, is that your fault? That's taking it an extra step, isn't it? It's one thing to say that if you smoke, the risk is higher, and if you stop smoking, the risk goes down. That's true. That's not a lie. But to blame somebody saying it's your fault that you got sick, that's saying nobody takes risks. Like, you shouldn't ever take risks. You as an individual have no right to take risks. If you take a risk and that risk works out negatively, then we're going to blame you. And in doing so, we're going to make you feel like crap. And also we're going to perhaps impact your access to healthcare. Why? Everybody takes risks. Everybody takes risks every day. Excuse me. If you get into a car, you're taking a risk. Death from a road traffic accident. Absolutely a risk. You could be the best driver in the whole wide world. Doesn't matter. Someone could crash into you. You go out in the sun, you're taking a risk. You don't go out in the sun, you're also taking a risk because you won't get vitamin D. I mean, like, everything we do is a risk. Life is about risks and benefits. Does the benefit outweigh the risk? And if you believe that every individual should get to decide what happens to their own body, then you have to accept that they will take those risks. Every individual will take those risks, and that they have determined that the benefits outweigh those risks. So if I'm a smoker The benefits of smoking outweigh the risks of smoking. Otherwise, I'd quit. Now, for some people, they want to quit and they can't quit. And like, okay, we'll put that to one side. Say I have made a conscious decision to continue smoking. It's because I have decided that, yes, I know the risks, but I'm still willing to take them because smoking does something for me that I need it to do. Right? Who are we as a society to decide that that's wrong? Who are we as doctors to decide that's wrong? Like, we don't do it for everything. That's the same. We're not, at least then we have to do it across the board. So if somebody dies in a road traffic accident or is injured in a road traffic accident, we should be like, well, shouldn't have got in a car. We don't do that. Why would we do that? But there are certain things that we love to judge people for. Smoking is one. Taking drugs, another. Alcohol and substance use is one. Being fat is one. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because smoking and alcohol are things that people do or don't do. Being fat is something that you are. But the assumption, of course, is that if you're fat, you're not eating right and you're not exercising enough. That's the assumption. So it's not so much that being fat, it is what it suggests about you. But I mean, like, the amount of times we do this in a society, just put medicine to one side. Like when a girl, woman, femme is wearing certain clothing and experiences sexual assault, well, if they didn't dress like that, they dressed like that, they were asking for it. Or how many times have we seen an innocent black man be shot by the police? Or if they weren't running, if they weren't doing this, if they weren't doing that, like, we are so quick to judge certain individuals, certain groups, certain people. Quick to judge. Oh, it's their fault. And other times we're like, oh, it wasn't their fault. And we do this in medicine as well. If you get, I don't know, motor neurone disease, one of the worst diagnoses you could possibly give a patient, awful diagnosis. At no point in time is a doctor ever going to treat you like that was your fault. But diabetes, emphysema, wow, you did bring it on yourself, didn't you? It's no wonder people don't want to see their doctors. It's that inconsistency as well. Like, I know that if I was a thin person that got diabetes, you would treat me so much better. And if I went to see you and my A1C was high, all you'd say was, oh, well, this medication's not working, let's switch it over. That's probably not true, by the way, because actually I think nurses don't care at this point in time, and doctors, they just hate everybody. They blame all their patients. But you know what I mean. You do get treated better. Ugh. I told you I was going to be moaning about doctors today. All right. Here's another thing that really bugs me about doctors. Is, you know, that sense that you feel like possibly something else might be going on. I do this thing with all of my clients where I just ask them to tell me what they think is going on. Like, what do you think is happening? Like, give me all of them. Throw them all at me. And it's amazing how my clients not only are able to come up with all of the possibilities, but are also able to subcategorize them. So they might say to me, like, I don't think it's cancer. But like, obviously I'm worried about cancer because my uncle died of it or whatever. So they're even able to sort of subcategorize things that it's likely to be, things that it's unlikely to be, but they'd like to rule them out, things that it's really unlikely, but they're afraid of. Like, they can do all of that perfectly for themselves. They don't need a doctor to do that. And we know that, like, we're carrying this knowledge around in us, even if we haven't written out the list. The list is really helpful. I thoroughly recommend you do this. Every single time you have any symptom, write down everything you think it could be. And I know that for some of you, you'll have that really judgy doctor's voice in your head, like, don't be ridiculous. It can't be that because your numbers are normal, or your x-ray was normal. It can't be that. So what if your x-ray was normal? It still could be that. Don't listen to that voice. Just write the whole list down. But oftentimes there is that situation where you think, oh, I think, you know, I'm worried it might be this, or what, or even if you don't know what it might be, but like, I'm afraid they're missing something because they just dismissed me. They've just told me to go and lose weight. Like, that doesn't make sense, you know. And so when they're telling you there's nothing wrong, especially when doctors are looking at a screen and being like, well, the results say that there's nothing wrong. And you're like, yeah, but here we are. I still have those symptoms. That's really challenging as well, right? Again, that massive power imbalance. The doctor's like, well, I'm right, you're wrong. It reminds me of Matilda, if you've ever watched the movie with Danny DeVito. What's it? I'm big, you're small. I'm right, you're wrong. That's how it feels. It's just very kind of very binary. Doctor is right, patient is wrong. There has to be a better way, and there is a better way, folks. It shouldn't be like this. Like, this whole situation is fucked up. I would love to be able to force doctors. I don't think I can entice doctors to be any better, but I would love to be able to force them to be better. I can't, I'm afraid. Not yet, anyway. I need to have all the power in order to do that. Maybe some magical spell. I don't know. We'll work that bit out. We haven't got there yet. But I just want to acknowledge in this moment how unfair it is that we have to go through this. How unfair it is that some people don't have to go through this as well. That also should be mentioned, that not everyone is struggling with this issue. It's only some people. It's a lot more people than we think, right? There are lots of groups of people that are going through this. Fat people, absolutely. And I would say, you know, in a really kind of I don't like to compare these things, but I think fat people have it the worst when it comes to doctors discriminating against them, because they have doctors aren't allowed to discriminate against you for any other reason. Not saying they don't, I'm just saying they're not allowed to, but they are absolutely well within their rights. According to current guidelines, they are able to discriminate against you if you're fat. So it's kind of like a legal, legal, ethically, grey area. I was able to say it's a grey area, whereas you can't argue that it's a grey area to discriminate against trans people. Although I guess it depends on where you live. And also, I want to add in that, of course, there's disability as well. So absolutely, doctors are allowed to discriminate or can get away with discriminating against their disabled patients. And this is where fatness and disability often intersect. There's also medical misogyny. There's just not enough evidence out there. There's not enough, it's very difficult to know how to treat a condition if there isn't enough research that's been done on that condition. And there's no research because of misogyny. But as a result, people are dying. More and more studies are showing that women are more likely to die of a heart attack and a stroke and things like that. Conditions that we should absolutely be able to treat. And that's simply because of misogyny. And don't get me started on the conditions that really only affect females. So anything that involves a uterus or ovaries, etc., etc. We're just not interested. So there's medical misogyny. And then, of course, there's racism. And we've seen, we've talked about this, and there is no excuse for not knowing about this now, folks. Okay, the evidence is out there. It has been described and it has been discussed at length. And if you still don't know what I'm talking about medical racism, then you need to learn. There is no excuse now. Learn. Read the studies that show that doctors simply give fewer analgesics, less pain relief to black people because they genuinely believe that black people experience less pain. Go read the studies. It'll shock you, or if it hasn't already, but it's life. So we are being discriminated against, and that shouldn't happen. It just shouldn't happen. But it is happening. I try to help people as much as possible to fight back against this. And if I'm not getting it right, in other words, if I'm not the willingness is there, perhaps I don't know the best way to do it. So I'm always open to feedback and, questions. And I keep telling people you can email me or you can message me and you can tell me, how can I help you? I want to help as much as I can. But I have got this program, Take Your Power Back. Blah, blah, blah. Take Your Power Back. It started off as a blog, I think, a blog post. Then I turned it into a course, and this was about 2 years ago. It's one of the first courses I ever did. It was 6 weeks, 6 modules. Then I increased it to 8 modules. Then it was a self-paced course. But for me, when I'm creating courses and programs and stuff like that, like I want, like my main thing genuinely is how can the client, the patient, the person get the most out of this? Like, what is going to benefit them the most? How are they, what's the goal? What's the aim here? And so the goal for Take Your Power Back is that you will be able to absolutely, without question, walk into every single one of your medical appointments confident that you're right, they're wrong, you're big, they're little, and that what you want is what you're going to get. I want the power to be flipped. Flip the power. I don't. At one point in time, I would say equal power. Now, not so much. I want you to be in charge. Them to be not your servant. But yeah, I mean, well, they are providing a service, so whatever that is, they work for you, not vice versa. So that's the aim. But in order to develop the confidence to be able to walk into a doctor's appointment where the power imbalance is so high, it's so big, so great, and to be able to flip it and to take charge and to take control, when you get to that stage, like that doesn't just change how you are in the doctor's office, right? That's going to change your life. It's going to change how you are and how you behave around a whole group of people. Anyone who uses their power to oppress you, to give you less, to take away, to make you feel small, to make you feel powerless. Like, yeah, transferable skills, folks. But the aim of this program is by the time you finish this program, you will be able to walk into your next doctor's appointment absolutely fucking confident that you are the boss and that they work for you. You're big, they're small, you're important, they're not important, your needs matter, their needs don't matter, you're in charge, they just gotta listen. And that is absolutely possible. And it's a mixture of like practical tips, which is useful and important, but actually it's also drilling down to like beneath the surface, not just the tip of the iceberg, but the whole iceberg. And that's why it takes 6 months. It doesn't happen overnight. There are so many things that we need to address before, like, you're not just going to magically get the confidence, because I don't want it to be fake confidence. I want it to be actual confidence. So when I made that phone call to book my most recent diabetic review, I felt like a boss, because not only was I like, woohoo, look at me making the appointment, but I was also like, I genuinely don't care about what this person's agenda is. I don't care about how she's going to treat me, what she's going to say, any of those things. I am confident, genuinely confident, that this is my consultation. I'm going to get what I need, and she is not going to make me feel like shit. I'm going to walk out of there happy and smiling and ready to celebrate, not go into my car and cry. That's the confidence I have. But it's not fake confidence, it's genuine confidence, and that comes from a lot of the work that I have done personally. So this course, Take Your Power Back, it's been a personal journey for me. Like, I learned to do it before I put it out there. And also, it's not easy, and I'm not suggesting that like once you've done it, like that's it, you've mastered it. Like it's an evolving process. I'm not going to promise you that you will be like that you'll never struggle, but it is transformational, this course. Ask anyone who's done it. But even the ones that have done it before, they haven't had the benefit of this program. This program looks like this. To start with, and one-to-one appointment, it will take 90 minutes. I'd like to say it takes less than that. It doesn't. It takes 90 minutes. It takes 90 minutes to have a one-to-one assessment with me first time round. So we start off with a 90-minute call. There's an online learning platform with lots of pre-recorded like videos and all sorts of resources, which I will continue to add to over the course of the next 6 months. But so if you're the kind of person that likes to do a lot of the stuff on your own and like really likes courses, great. But if you're like me, I love a course, but I don't always follow up. Like, I don't know if it's the ADHD in me, I think. I don't always follow up. I don't always watch all the videos and stuff. So for some people, it's just that's not enough, which is why there are also group calls. So there are 8 group calls in total, one for each module. There are 8 modules. And whilst we will be focusing on a particular subject with each group call, it's much more informal. It's a place where people can bring their issues and their concerns and their experiences, and they can ask advice from each other and from me. And sometimes we can practice things like, oh, I'm going to go and see my doctor next week and I'm really worried they're going to say this. Okay, cool. What are you going to say if they say this? And so we can do stuff like that. And people find that helpful. So there's the group calls, but also if you're not a group call kind of person, or like, you tend to sort of lurk. If you're a lurker, you're not one of these people that gets involved, that's fine. Don't worry, because there's also what I like to call, well, not what I like to call, what is called asynchronous coaching. So if you're the kind of person that prefers to, like, if you have a question, like, I'm going to see my doctor next week and I'm worried about it, you'd rather put that in a note, text message, a voice message, you can do that too. Because that's part of this whole thing. Part of this program is you will have access to me. I'm not going to say 24/7 because, I have a life. But yeah, you leave a voice note, I'll get back to you. You leave a message, I'll get back to you. And we can talk it through. What are you going to do in this situation? How are you going to handle? What are you worried about? Oh, this has really hurt me. This has really got me down. All of that stuff. And then, of course, there is the community as a whole. So you might not want specific advice from me, but you just might want to vent or to just say to a community, this shit happened, this shit thing happened at work, or this doctor said this to me, or I've got an appointment next week and I just could really do with some positive vibes. I have this incredible, I cannot tell you how amazing they are. Small community, 30 active members. So it's tiny. Perfect size, really. And people are there, they're around. So it's an active kind of community, but super supportive, super positive, and also multi-talented. There's someone for everyone in this community. People are bring a lot of skills, and actually, so you get to be part of this community as well. So you get a one-to-one, you get the online learning platform, you get group coaching and asynchronous coaching, and you get an incredible community. It's a 6-month program. So we're starting in August, which means it's going to take you all the way through Christmas, and Thanksgiving and the holiday season, and then January and that horrible dieting season. We're going all the way through. We won't be finishing now until 2025. Isn't that amazing? Also, isn't that scary? We'll go through the election as well. For my American folks out there, we'll take you all the way through your election process. And so, yes, of course, it's about health, but it's about more than that, right? Because we're helping people to feel empowered. So it's all about life. And that's the great thing about the community, is that we don't just talk about health. We talk about everything. So, yeah. Doesn't that sound appealing? As I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this to start. Obviously, for it to work, it has to be a small group. I haven't quite capped the number in my mind, but I am very conscious that it will come to a point where I'll be like, nope, we're full, we're done. So first come, first served. That being said, I think for a lot of people, it might be the price that puts them off. It's £980 for the 6 months. That works out as £160 per month. You can spread the payments. But yeah, I appreciate that some people will just be completely priced out, and I'm sorry about that. I really genuinely am. There might be other people who are like, do you know what? That sounds appealing, but I just don't have the time, the energy, the whatever to do it right now. It's not for me right now. And that's fine. It might not be for you right now. I totally get that. Just a few things to let you know. I wrote things down. You don't have to be a confident person to do this course. Actually, some of my favourite past attendees have been the not confident ones, the really quiet ones. They're the ones that surprise us the most. Always, every time. It's the really quiet ones that whoa, that's so amazing. They end up saying things and just oh, whoa, can't believe you said that to your doctor. That's incredible. So you don't have to be confident. You don't have to be assertive to do this course. You don't have to, you don't have to imagine, some people I just can't imagine that will ever be me. I just can't see myself ever being that confident person. That's okay. You don't have to see it. I see it. I believe it's possible. I can see that in you. You don't have to, because it's possible for everybody. You don't have to have a specific set of skills or a particular communication style or, have done lots of work or like, you don't have to know stuff. You don't need to like be well versed in weight inclusivity and all of that jazz. Not at all. You can just show up. So there might be some of you who are just like, ooh, like I know that I need this, but also I don't know if I want to poke that bear, because there's a lot of trauma there and I'm not sure I'm ready to deal with that trauma. And I hear you. Yes, we're going to touch on things that are going to bring up some big emotions for you. You're not going to like it all the time. It'll hurt because you've been traumatized by your doctors. So and I imagine you've never had chance to process that trauma. So part of this program is going to be processing trauma, and that won't be easy. But I will say that it's not going to be a trauma dump. Like, it's not going to be a place where people just come and like are sad and complain, and like there is definitely absolutely a need for that, and I'm all for it. But that's not the kind of community or group that I facilitate. Like I just, that's not my style. So yeah, we actually have quite a lot of fun. We have jokes, lots of jokes, lots of fun. My community, something I'm really proud of is someone was talking about like photographs and struggling with photographs because of chins. And so we did this amazing thing where I just kind of was like, right, that's it. I want everyone to take the photo from the worst angle possible and post it. You don't have to, obviously. And we called it hashtag chin selfie. And we just had loads of people doing chin selfies. And then the rest of us were just like saying it was very supportive, and it was very like, it felt really good, very genuine as well. Not like, oh, you look beautiful, sweets. No, it wasn't like that. It was more like, yes, go on. So yeah, we have fun. If you're tired and you just think like, I don't have the energy for this, it's actually very energizing. Feeling empowered is very energizing. And I'm going to talk about that in the next episode. I'm going to talk about my own personal journey with taking your power back. So join me for that next week. And don't forget, first come, first served. So if you want to join Take Your Power Back, you go to fatdoctor.co.uk, you go to courses and you go to Take Your Power Back, or you go to fatdoctor.co.uk / TYPB. Take Your Power Back, TYPB. See? Very easy. You go there, take you straight on, explains everything, and then you can register your spot. I can't wait for some of you to join me. Yeah. Looking forward to it. And if you've listened to this and you've gone, that's not for me, but I know someone who might be interested, do me a favour and let them know. I'm not spending money on advertising. So the only people who know are the people that I tell this about. So if you think this is good, but not for me, pass it on. Thanks, folks. See you next week, or speak to you next week. Actually, I won't see you because this is a podcast. So what a weird way to sign off. But talk to you next week. Yeah. Have a good week.